Okay, in this video we're going to take a look at the limitations of saving data in a file, right? So let's just take a look at the example that we have here. Is a company which has chosen to use text files to save data about members of a band, right? So we're going to take a look. This is a snapshot of that file, and we want to take a look and see what problems we can see in this file. Okay, if you can see here, one of the first problems that we can identify is for this entry. Let me quickly just show you what we're trying to save here. So maybe this is the first name that we're trying to save, right? And this would be the last name, right? And this here is the band name, right? And this would be the bank account number, because we're also storing the banking details. And let this be the bank name, right? So the name of the bank, right? And we could have had other entries also, but you know, I think this much is enough for us to understand the problem. Okay, one of the first problems that we've identified is with this particular row, where data about dial and stored art is stored, and we can see that the band name is missing, right? The band name is missing, and that is happening because we don't have, you know, we're not using validation, right? So there's a problem here because we can't validate data when we enter it, right? So in the absence of validation, right, this is something that can happen. And you remember, in validation, you know, you have something called a presence check, right? So a presence check makes sure that when you're entering data for a certain field, that the value has been entered, right? It's not left empty. But since we cannot apply validation in the file-based approach, therefore this particular entry is missing, right? So we can identify the problem, right? And let's take a look if we can identify some other problem with this data. If you take a look at these two entries, there's a problem, right? And the problem is that the first time the name has been entered, it has been entered as Graham Vandana, and maybe later on it was realized that, you know, the name has been entered in the wrong order. The first name has been entered as the last name, and the last name has been entered as the first name. So a correction was made, right? So a correction was made in this particular row, right? So the correction was made, but unfortunately, when we made the correction, or when somebody made the correction, this incorrect entry, this row, right, it should have been deleted, but it has not been deleted, right? It's still there in the file. So what we have is, we have two problems here, right? As far as these two entries are concerned, we have two problems. One of the problems is that there is data duplication, right? There is data duplication. Data about the same person, or same kind of data, or same data I should say, has been entered twice, right? And the other problem that we see here is data inconsistency. Data inconsistency. And what do we mean by data inconsistency? You see, in one of these rows, the first name is Graham, and in the other row, in the other entry, we have it as Vandana, right? So the same person has different first name and last name entered, right? So the data is not consistent, right? We can see that, you know, the first name and the last name are Vandana and Graham, whereas it's the other way around here, right? So this and this data, they don't match up. They do not match up, right? So data is inconsistent, right? The first name and the last name, you know, they're not the same, although the data belongs to the same person. So there is the problem of data inconsistency, and there's the problem of data duplication. We can also see that these two entries right here, right, they also have a problem. And the problem once again is that there is data duplication. Precious Olson, it's data about the same person, but it has been entered twice. And there's also the problem of data inconsistency, because the band here has been listed as computer kids and here it has been listed as IT West. So there is a problem here, right? For the same person, the data is inconsistent, right? And you should know that data this means that data integrity has been violated. What this means is that data integrity has been violated, right? Which basically, what does data integrity mean? Data integrity says that data must be accurate and up to date, right? And it seems that there is some problem here, right? Because this cannot be accurate, because at one place we have computer kids and at the other place we have IT West. So there's something going on. Data is inconsistent. There's a problem. There's data duplication also. And why is all of this happening, right? Why are we making so many mistakes? Why is there the possibility of so many mistakes in a file-based approach? And the reason is because there is no mechanism for validation checks. Since there is no mechanism, since there is no mechanism for validation checks, whilst entering data in a file, that is why we are having all of these problems, right? So there's no mechanism for validation checks. Well, what we could also have another problem, right? I don't have space here, so I'm just going to go up here and write something. What if we have a person called Zhu Li, and what if somebody enters a band name which does not exist at all, right? For example, somebody enters something like Great Rock, right? So he's entered a band name and the band name is Great Rock, whereas in reality this band does not exist at all, right? So now we have a problem. Okay, this means what? Data is not accurate, data integrity has been violated, and we ended up entering a name of a band which does not exist at all, right? So file-based approach can have several problems. And now we are going to take a look at a totally different problem, right? And the problem is that we have two departments in the organization. So we have the finance department, right? And we have the HR department. And we have a single file, right? So we have a single file where all the records have been stored, right? So anybody from the finance department has access to this file. Anybody from the HR department has access to this file. Because somebody from the HR department has access to this file, he is now able to view banking details also, right? So anybody from the HR department is able to view the banking details also, which he should not be able to view, right? So basically what we have here is lack of data privacy, right? So there is no data privacy. I should say there is no data privacy, because anybody who has access to this file, right, will be able to watch all the records and all the fields in the records, right? So even though the banking details are not meant for somebody in the HR department, he's still able to view all of these details. Okay, so we need to, so the company thinks of this problem, and the company thinks, okay, what we should make two separate files, one file for the finance department and one file for the HR department, and both of these departments should have their own separate text files, right, with only data that people within these departments should be able to see, right. So the finance department is going to have a file with relevant data, and HR department is going to have a file with the relevant data. Because of the privacy problem, the organization has created two separate files, right. So this file is for the HR department and this one is for the finance department, and we can see that they've included the banking details right here. So anybody who is in the HR department now gets to see this file only, and he's not able to view the banking details. So in a way, privacy has been ensured, right. But now there's another problem, because this department is maintaining its own file and this department is maintaining its own file. We can have something like this, right, Vandana Graham and Vandana Graham, right. We can have something like this, right. Once again, we can have inconsistent data, right, across multiple files, right. We can have something like that, and this results in what, right. This results in lack of data integrity, right. So data is not accurate, it's not up to date. And what if, for example, we had another field? So let's just suppose we had some field related to contact information. Let me just add it here, right. So something related to contact, right. So let's say there were some numbers here, 0 4 5 1 2 3 and 1 1 2 2 4 4 5 5 6 6 3 3, the cell numbers, right, 8 7 8 7 8 7. So the cell numbers, the contact information was included, and so was the contact information included here also, right. So 0 4 5 1 2 3 and 1 1 2 2 4 4 and 5 5 6 6 3 3 1 7 8 7 8 7. And later on, right, so far, you know, we have the same contact information, right. So we have the same contact information here, same contact information here. So the finance department has the contact information and the HR department has the contact information. But later on, this guy Precious Olson, he calls and he informs that I am changing my phone number, right. So please note my new phone number, and the new phone number is 361626, right. So the contact information has been updated by the finance department when Precious Olson called. This file has been updated and this file still has the old number, right, the older number. This file is not up to date, right. So there is a problem now, and the problem once again is, for one thing, data is inconsistent, and the other thing, that data is not accurate, right. So it's not accurate in this case, which means what, right, there is no data integrity, right. Okay, and there's another problem, you know, some of the entries have been stored twice, right. So this name Jiang Fei Jia has been entered twice, right. So we have duplicate entries. So even though, you know, it's just one person, we now have had to what we've done now is we have two entries, right. The name exists in HR department and the name also exists in the file for the finance department. So we have duplicate entries, you know, same name has been stored twice, which in terms of computer science, you know, and storing data is not a good practice, right. There should be no duplicate entries, but in this case some of the entries are, some fields are duplicated, right, are duplicate, right. They are there in the finance department and they are there in the HR department also. When the same, and this problem is called what? This problem is called data redundancy. See, we have no problem, we have no issues, Zhang Fei Jia here, Zhang Fei Jia here, right? The name is correct, it's accurate, right? But instead of saving it once only, because it belongs to one person, instead of saving it once only, which we do in databases, right? In databases, the name would only have been stored once. You would not have had to store the name twice, right? But in this case, in the file based approach, we had to store the same name separately here and the same name separately here. Likewise, Mahesh Ravuru, this name has been stored here once and the same name has been stored here twice. This is called data redundancy.